Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante, bringing you truth from underneath Wayne Manor, somewhere in the outskirts of Gotham City. Well, it's the war machine keeps going. The war machine keeps going on. Americans are having a hard time paying their bills. We can't even get student debt forgiveness. We can't get Medicare for all in the middle of a once in a 100-year pandemic. Can't get baby formula. Gas is $5-6 a gallon, depending on what part of the country you're in. But at least Joe Biden getting us into more war. It's great. Biden approves plan to redeploy several hundred ground forces into Somalia. The president also signed off on targeting about a dozen Shabab leaders in the war-torn country from which Donald J. Trump largely withdrew in his final weeks in office. Before we get into the specifics of this ridiculous, well, it's not just the New York Times, but this is what Biden is doing. People are like, why are we going to Somalia? Why have we been in and out of war there since Obama started wars in there? I mean, what is Somalia? It's this poor, war-torn country. I mean, it's not like they have, oil. Oops, whoop. How did this get up there? Somalia, the next oil superpower, January 2015. Right smack dab in the middle of Obama's second term. With excellent access to shipping lanes and supposedly massive untapped wealth, perhaps as much of 110 billion barrels. It's no surprise that multinational oil companies are intrigued, but responsible investors would be wise to think twice. What do I tell you on this show? Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. So I haven't dug that deep into it, but we can only guess there's probably some government in power that isn't playing ball with the American oil companies. So we got to go in there, right? And this article here, this New York Times article, typical of the corporate media, it's critical of Trump for pulling troops out, right? Which is funny because it's when the right-leaning or the left-leaning corporate media criticizes the other side, it's never war. Why are we doing war? It's always, you're not doing war the right way. And this is also like Trump supporters like to say, see, Trump was anti-war. He was not anti-war. He kept all the wars going. He just didn't do war the way some people wanted him to do. Just like the right is now criticizing Joe Biden. He's not doing war the right way. It's never, why are we doing war? It's always, you're just not doing war the right way. Remember when Trump bombed Syria, his first, 4 months in office? And Fareed Zakaria was like, Trump became president today? It's ridiculous. So I'm going to go into this article. This is the stuff that's said in this article, okay? Largely reversing the decision by President Donald Trump to withdraw nearly all 700 ground troops who had been stationed there, according to 4 officials familiar with the matter. Mr. Biden has approved a Pentagon request for standing authority to target about a dozen suspected leaders of al-Shabaab. So we're bringing troops and more drone strikes. I mean, this is and it's funny to me when somebody says like, oh, if Trump was in office, we wouldn't be in all these wars. That's ridiculous. Trump ran an anti-interventionist campaign, as did Obama. And Obama dropped more bombs than Bush, and Trump dropped more bombs than Obama. It doesn't matter. If you think you're deluding yourself, if you think that Trump he was an anti-war candidate. He said that to help get elected, as so did Obama. War's good for business. I'll show you in a second, how much they gave to both Trump and Biden. So again, suspected, this is great. This is more this open-ended, never-ending war language. That's what this means. Just so you look for the little key words that are like suspected and could be muddled for years. That you're hearing the same language come out of Ukraine. And I've showed you in previous videos how generals and stuff have said on the corporate media, this might take forever. That's what they want, never-ending war. In the eyes of the military-industrial complex, the 20-year war in Afghanistan was not a failure. It was a boon. $3.5 trillion was spent. They made crazy profits. So what if the Taliban's still in power? They don't care. The stock prices are up. Mr. Biden signed off on the proposal by Defense Secretary Lloyd J. Austin in early May, officials said. Now, let's not forget, Austin was on Patreon's board of directors. And when he got appointed, the corporate media never brought that up. They would just say, oh, he was on the board of directors, but then they made all this like, oh, he's the first Black Secretary of Defense. It's like they should have flipped that. It should have been like really going into the massive, egregious conflict of interest that the guy from a board of directors of a defense contractor is now in charge, the Secretary of Defense. Gee, I wonder if Austin's going to want to keep pushing for more war. I wonder, it's not like he's got a financial interest. Oh, but yeah, he had to get rid of his. No, they always say that. He's still making money. Come on. It's like, remember when Rex Tillerson was the Secretary of State under Trump, and he used to be the CEO of ExxonMobil? Like literally the State Department was ExxonMobil. The Defense Department is Raytheon. Like, I mean, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. And so again, because this is the New York Times, which is definitely pro-war, but they'll be critical of Trump. They won't ever be that critical of Biden, but they'll be critical of Trump. And Fox News is critical of Biden, not that he's doing too much war. That's just, he's not doing war the right way. Because the war machine buys ad time on Fox. They buy it on MSNBC and CNN, all of them. And they own the New York Times. I mean, it's all rigged to just, we can debate war, how it's done. We can never say, how are we going to pay for it? Why we don't have money for student debt forgiveness, but we got more money for war. We just sent $40 billion over to the Ukraine on top of a $1.5 trillion aid package that had no COVID relief. $1.7 trillion is exactly the amount of money in student debt. So we can't get rid of student debt, but we always got money for war. So then there's this woman weighs in this article about, again, more critiques of why we didn't do war the right way. Adrienne Watson, the National Security Council spokeswoman. And gee, I wonder if she's ever worked for defense contractors. I wonder if this National Security Council is just littered with defense contractors or former or intelligence operatives. I doubt it. I'm sure it's all just like, philosophy professors, right? And, repertory theater directors. I'm sure it's just that. And, non-for-profits. I'm sure Medea Benjamin's people are on this board. I'm sure they are. Acknowledged the move, saying it would enable a more effective fight against al-Shabaab. So whenever a party is replaced, the new president is always like, the old president didn't do war the right way. So Trump said this about Obama. Biden is saying this about Trump. Obama said this about Bush. But the war machine just keeps moving. It doesn't matter. This is why these are just professional wrestling characters. Oh, so we weren't fighting al-Shabaab effectively. Remember now, I showed you that article from 2015. Somalia has 110 billion barrels of oil along its shores. They have all these oil reserves they just can't wait to get at. And countries that don't want to play ball with the oil companies, destabilizing them is one of the tactics, right? They try to reduce the threat by al-Shabaab by suppressing its ability to plot and carry out complicated operations, a senior administration official said. Those include a deadly attack on the American airbase in Manda Bay, Kenya in January 2020. Okay, so they bombed an airbase. That's awful. But we have to respond to that, of course. Why is the airbase there? Who was involved? And I mean, for all we know, the CIA helped fuel that attack. I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point. I'm not saying that, but like, I don't trust these people at all. And again, here's more criticisms of how Trump, who I'm not a fan of, and he bombed like Trump profited from war. Once Mr. Trump became president, he loosened controls on airstrikes there, and So this is why somehow Biden is better. His airstrikes have more control. Trump just bombed people willy-nilly. I always said Trump was just the most vulgar version of all the presidents before him. He just said, we're keeping the troops in Syria to guard the oil. No, we're just going to bomb willy-nilly. Why do we care? Why do we need rules for bombing? Oh, we got to have rules. We got to be civilized when we murder innocent people for oil profits. Once again, Mr. Trump became president. He loosened controls on airstrikes there, and the Pentagon significantly escalated American combat activity. So again, this notion that Trump was the peace president, he escalated more troops, escalated bombing. He talked about pulling people out of there and didn't. At the end of in December of 2020, Trump pulled people out of Somalia. It's all theatrics. Trump was pro-war, Biden's pro-war, Obama's pro-war, Bush was pro-war. Whatever neo-fascist the Republican Party regurgitate out for 2024 will be pro-war. If Kamala Harris is running as president because Biden can't anymore, she's pro-war. It doesn't matter. It's Coke versus Pepsi, guys. But shortly before leaving office, Mr. Trump ordered most American troops to pull out of Somalia. Oh, man. And again, he was criticized for it. So this is the insanity of this country and why everyone's so propagandized. They just disagree with whatever the other side says, which is just insane. Like even I see so-called lefties who've taken a lot of shit from the liberal media now just agree with Tucker Carlson and Trump, even though those guys are wrong. Just if someone, I'm going to agree with it's a form of insanity and mental gymnastics. I don't understand how people are able to do it, but I don't know. I'm sober. I don't drink and smoke pot every day. Biden escalates the forever war in Somalia. This came out yesterday. So why do I say anybody, Trump supporters say, Graham, no, he bombed people. He got increased war budgets, the Congress and the Senate. The Senate was Republican back under his watch. So both Democrats and Republicans gave him, each year the war budget has gone up since 9/11, each year. And Trump didn't say no. He kept bombing people. He kept doing all this crap. And if Trump would have won, you think he would have been better for war. I don't know. They're both awful. So to sit here and say Biden's horrible, but then Trump would have been better is a joke. They're both awful, and it would have been awful in different ways. And Trump has the backing of the KKK and white nationalist neo-Nazis. That's who supports him in this country. We support neo-Nazis, the Democrats, the United States. And when I say we, I mean the United States. But the Democratic Party supports neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. Why do I say Trump would have kept bombing and probably would have, if he would have pulled troops out of Somalia, he would have put them in somewhere else. It's a joke. Why do I say that? What do I say in the show? Follow the money, connect the dots. So I've shown you this before. This is go to opensecrets.org. Do this yourself. Go to opensecrets.org and type in defense industry donations and just put 2020. That was the election year. Joe Biden, 3.1 million. Donald Trump, 2.7 million. There's a little over 400 grand separates them. It's not a big difference. They even gave 800 grand to Bernie Sanders. What you spend here. So they spent almost a full $6 million. And it's almost evenly split. It's about, what they did, whoever wins, we've paid to make sure there's still war going on. That's what that means. And the off chance Bernie wins, we'll get some money for him. There's no Kamala Harris here, but they're on there. They're on there. Liz Warren, right? Lindsey Graham, Pete Buttigieg. So all these Republicans and Democrats keep voting for war. Don't forget this happened. This was March 9th. Bipartisan support. We bailed out the rich. So during the coronavirus, so we bail out Wall Street and we spend money on war. That's what happens. Here's the extra $40 billion that just got sent to Ukraine, keeping the war machine going. We're in Somalia for oil. This is about, oil pipelines and trying to undermine Russia's influence. That's why we're allowed to have a bunch of NATO bases surrounding Russia, but they can't even have one single base. Imagine if Russia tried to put one base. And again, we say Somalia is about this terrorist group. Anytime in the Middle East, it's terrorism. No, it's oil. It's oil. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. It doesn't matter who's in the White House, Biden or Trump, we'd be doing all this war stuff. The details of it might have changed a little bit, but the defense industry spent overall in the 2020 elections $49 million across both parties. And the oil companies gave way more money to Trump than they did Biden. I've shown you that before. Again, that's on Open Secrets. Go look it up yourself. So oil and war are linked for sure. Like they're one and the same. So Biden will just have a little, green energy talk to keep the sucker vote any blue will do crowd to appease them into thinking that somehow he's better. But I mean, he's that much better on the environment. So that's how it is. Trump would have been more oil. He would have been drilling on public lands, more of that. But even then, Biden has approved more drilling permits on public lands in his first year than Trump did. So I don't know if Trump would have then tried to break his own record if he was the president. It's a dumb waste of time to debate because they're both awful. And voting for either one of these parties is a fool's errand. But we're in Somalia because of the oil. We're in the Ukraine because of oil pipelines. And Russia's a threat to us economically, as is China. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. That's what we do here. We don't chase clicks. I'm not going to say stuff that's going to get clicks because it's not true. This is the facts. I've shown you this. Like, some people can come up with whatever they want, but they're click chasing, probably because they're hopped up on booze and weed and prescription drugs, and their cognitive thinking is off. That's my guess. Shave your knuckles for justice.